Becoming a digital nomad requires us to think outside the box, meaning that your old habits, some of our old beliefs, our everyday lifestyle is about to change. What's important if you're an entrepreneur and you want to pursue the digital nomad lifestyle, think of the cultural aspects in which you would like to immerse yourself. For instance, I have been studying and researching Portugal for about a year. I've been studying with Liz Sharma. She's a Portuguese teacher online, really, really good teacher. What I have come to realize with the area where I want to live in Portugal, there are a couple of important aspects that I wholeheartedly embrace. The first one is they like for you to be polite. When we greet people in America, we don't always say good morning, good afternoon. We just jump into a conversation. Nick from Algarve Addicts says you can't do that in Portugal. And Liz Sharma, my teacher, same thing. They want you to start with a simple greeting. Good morning is bom dia. Good afternoon is boa tarde. That's the issue with being polite. It's also a slower culture. Nick and Liz both tell us that there's no such thing as people rushing. There's no fast food there. There's no such thing as people eating at their desk during work. Food is super important to them. Family dinners are important to them. In the European culture, but especially in Spain, especially in Portugal, people take time over lunch. 2-hour lunches are very, very common. The other aspect about learning the language is they have certain expressions that we would never have in the United States. For instance, Liz Sharma was saying that they like to add INHO to a lot of their words. It's a diminutive, meaning kind of just a little bit. For instance, she says that she says it's very common when someone says goodbye to you, they'll say, instead of just ciao, they'll say tchauzinho. She says it's adorable, it's charming, it's just something the Portuguese do. And therefore, you want to learn those charming Portuguese ways because you can assimilate sooner and quicker into the Portuguese culture, even if you're there for 2 months out of the year. But if you really want to become a digital nomad, these are things that you want to learn. The whole aspect of slowing down, having lunch, or having a nice quiet dinner with friends, not rushing on the subway as I did for 29 years in New York, not rushing through traffic here in Florida, although I don't do that any longer, but I used to. We are so rushed as Americans. And that's one of the reasons Portuguese is coming near and dear to my heart. Lastly, if you do live in the big city, you're going to be able to progress quicker with just knowing English. While I really believe it's much more important to learn the language at least a little bit so that you can make Portuguese friends. That's the reason you're moving to another country and being a digital nomad entrepreneur is to immerse yourself in different culture. Lastly, which was kind of a red flag for me, Nick said there's children everywhere because families are big and they believe in having their children involved in every aspect of their life. I am not a child-friendly person, not all the time, but I can certainly learn to embrace it with small amounts of time. Nick says Portuguese is not going to change for us. It's important for us as Americans, if you're going to live there, it's important for us to immerse ourselves in their culture. Kundalini yoga also has that different kind of culture. It's the only yoga I have ever studied every day for 30 years. I still do it every morning. What makes Kundalini yoga so different is it's a breathing type of yoga. The breath of fire that they do is a cleansing, it's an energizing type of breath. Also, almost every Kundalini yoga teacher will use the gong. It's a very powerful sound. They always do it at the end of class. I always fall asleep. it takes you out of your body. It's one of the most relaxing experiences I've ever had. Kundalini yoga is totally different from the other yogas. I have never done them. Kundalini yoga does not get you in crazy positions, although historically I have been in some crazy positions, but not too often. It's usually about breathing. But that's another cultural difference if you're choosing a type of yoga to practice. Kundalini yoga, to me, is more of a gentle yoga. It's more spiritual than most of the yogas out there. I've included a link to Har Prakash. She explains the basic practice of Kundalini yoga. Therefore, if you're just starting yoga, you might want to watch her link. Lastly, wine. Yes, this is rosé season for many of you. In my book, this is the time when I drink rosés all year long, but it's the time when the best of them come out, because usually we run out of stock and you don't see the best rosés. Two of the rosés which I really prefer are Spanish. Ostatu is one of the most beautiful rosés you'll ever have from Spain. It is Tempranillo, Garnacha, and Viura. Very food friendly. It's about $18, $19 depending on what state you're in, meaning, are you in New York or are you in Florida? Marqués de Caceres is another rosé which is very easy to drink. It's only about $9. But those two are worth finding. If you ever need help trying to find wines, please contact me. I know exactly where most of these wines are. Anytime I talk about a wine, I know you can purchase it relatively easy, even though I live in Florida. I know I can find it for you. Wanted to mention also about wedding and celebrations, since this is summer and many people are getting married and they're having celebrations and graduations. There's a wonderful sparkling wine that makes a beautiful gift, but it's very inexpensive. It's Gruet, which is made of all places in New Mexico. Now, it has been around for quite a while. It used to be $9.99 10 years ago, and now it's in the 20s. But it's a nice gift. You do not have to break the bank. My last podcast gave ideas that would break the bank. I'm here to help you create a beautiful wedding gift that's based on wine books, wine travel, anything you need for a wedding gift or an anniversary, a graduation. Let me know, and I'm here to help. And lastly, I produce this podcast once a week. I'm Valerie Hill. And remember that to become a digital nomad, to research it, find out what's important to you in your cultural immersion. The language, the customs, the cultural aspects. Do that kind of research. You can certainly listen to me. I always have links on my podcast to the people I listen to and from whom I have learned these tips and techniques about Portugal. Kundalini yoga. I always have links on my podcast about a class. And lastly, wine. I always have links about these amazing wines. I also create a class called Fear of Public Speaking. It's an online course. You can see that in my contact details. I have that on every podcast also. Merci et au revoir.